The Miami Dolphins are 24 hours away from the NFL trade deadline, and the rumors are picking up surrounding this Dolphins football team. Will they buy? Will they sell? What players could be on the move for Miami? We're going to break it down on today's show. But make sure you are subscribed and make sure you have your notifications turned on. It could be a very hectic 24 hours here at the channel with people getting traded away, people may be getting acquired, and we will drop a video when that news happens. So make sure you're subscribed and make sure you click that notification icon and click it for all, not just personalized, so you get notified every time we drop a video, because there's a chance we drop a handful of them in the next 24 hours. All right, we'll start with this because I have speculated over the past week and a half, as the Miami Dolphins has really struggled, that they should sell at the NFL trade deadline. And if they did sell, one of their top assets that could be leaving this roster is Calais Campbell, where over the weekend, Dianna Russini reported that teams have called Miami about Calais Campbell to check in on the veteran, and mentioned also Preston Smith. But the moral of the story is this: teams are always chasing pass rushers, experienced defensive linemen that can help them in a postseason push. And Calais Campbell would absolutely help any team in the National Football League. Sure, the Dolphins' defensive line and pass rush has not been good this season, but Campbell has not been the reason why. He's been in every game for Miami. He's tied for the team lead in sacks with 2 with Zach Sealer and Emmanuel Ogbah. He's consistently made plays in the passing game as well as the run game. He has been your arguable best defensive lineman and most consistent, because he has not missed a game, and he's been so good in the run and against the pass. And Campbell is someone that I would absolutely trade and I would sell. Like, this is not just Calais Campbell and not on him. This is just a moral of the story. Like, you're 2-6. It's not going your way this season. And if I was Chris Grier, if I was the GM of this football team, if I was being offered decent enough picks, 4th, 5th, 6th rounders, for some of these veteran players that are on one-year contracts, I would absolutely think about moving on from them. And Campbell might be someone that gets called upon the most over the next 24 hours. Raheem Mostert's another player to keep an eye on, potentially being moved out. Ogbah, Odell Beckham Jr., Jordan Poyer. These guys are all veterans on short contracts that might not be in the long-term future of this organization and this football team. And if that is not the case, then why not trade some of them, specifically Calais Campbell, who would probably garner the most interest out of anybody on this roster when you're just looking at the veteran pool. We'll have more on Calais Campbell in just a second. But be Chris Grier for me. Would you sell at the NFL trade deadline? We've asked this question a lot over the past week, but with 24 hours to go, we really got to hone in on this. Type Y for yes or type N for no. Well, it seems that Calais Campbell will not be on the move for the Miami Dolphins. Josh Moser, who sits down with NFL agent Drew Rosenhaus, who has a really good relationship with the Miami Dolphins organization, obviously has connections to Tyreek Hill, Jonnu Smith, and others on this football team. Well, in his weekly appearance or hit, whatever you want to call it, he told Josh Moser on record that Calais Campbell will not be traded from the Miami Dolphins. And obviously Moser accidentally said he's 37, Campbell's 38. But here's the moral of the story. Like, not getting rid of him is kind of crazy, and they're holding on to him. But it's not just Calais Campbell. It appears that Miami has no intention to sell any of those veterans that I just mentioned, or anybody that could be not in the future of this organization. Specifically, Rosenhaus said in that weekly hit that Grier and the Dolphins have been very active in making phone calls, and he does not expect the Dolphins by any means to give up on the season, which means that Grier in this front office is looking to acquire talent more than they are willing to sell. I can't believe this. This is surprising to me. This team is 2-6. Sure, the offense has turned it around since Tua's return, scoring 27 points in back-to-back weeks. But this team can't put a full game together. It is always something. It's either special teams, it's either the defense, or it's either the offense. This year has been a season straight out of a nightmare for Miami, because there's something going well for them every game that gives you hope, but then one side of the football is so bad where it costs you the game. Early on this season, it was the offense being unable to score while the defense was balling out. Over the last 2 weeks, it's been the defense's inability to stop anyone in the second half. I am stunned by the Dolphins potentially looking to go acquire talent at the deadline. We'll talk about who they could be looking at in just a second and more rumors on this ball club. But make sure you do get started with Game Time, the best ticketing app on the market. And if you want to go see any live event, whether it be a sporting event, comedy show, concert, Game Time is the best place to do it with so many great features like Game Time Picks. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. A couple other features that I really enjoy. It's the all-in pricing. It shows you the total price of your ticket up front, so when you go to check out, you're not going to get blindsided by any fees. You also get to see a panoramic view in the app of your seat before you buy, so you do not get bamboozled, if you will, by a pole, a stanchion, bad angle. You get to see exactly where you would be in your specific venue. So get started with Game Time today. Download the app and use code CHATSPORTS to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, first purchase only, but code CHATSPORTS gets you $20 off that first purchase. Shout out to Game Time for sponsoring Dolphins today. I've used them so many times over the past 2 or 3 months while getting my tickets. What time is it? It is game time. I don't know how you guys feel on it, but this is how I feel on it. And I tweeted this out as well, so make sure you go give me a follow at Nic_Rohloff on X/Twitter. But to me, it is front office malpractice to buy at the trade deadline with this team. It is. There is no hope for this team. And even if they did go on a miracle run to make the postseason, they're 2-6. I think it would require 10-7 to make it. So you'd have to win 8 of your last 9 games. If you do happen to do that and you're 10-7, do we seriously think this team is going to be able to travel to Baltimore, travel to Kansas City, travel to Buffalo, and beat any of those teams in the cold weather in January? Absolutely not. We have seen enough from this team to know that they are not Super Bowl contenders. So why not just sell off a little piece of your roster that is not likely to be here next season so you can get more ammo in the chamber to get talent in April at the NFL draft? I do not understand why they could potentially go out and buy, especially when you look at this. This is the updated 2025 NFL draft standings as of filming 11/4/2024. I want to show this why. The Miami Dolphins currently have the 8th pick, yes, but they are a half game away from being in the number 1 spot. Why do I say that? Well, when you are tied, it goes to strength of schedule, and it is not who gets the hardest schedule who gets it. It is the easiest schedule who ultimately owns the tiebreaker. Well, look in that far right column. The Dolphins, out of the top 10 teams in the NFL that are terrible, have the easiest strength of schedule, which means if they were 2-7, they would have the number 1 pick. The only reason why they are not 2-7 is because they are lucky that they had an early bye week and the other 9 teams did not. So why, no team, the Patriots aren't buying with the idea to make the playoffs this season. None of those other teams are, Tennessee. They're all selling because they're not good football teams. And the Dolphins are not a good football team either. The offense, sure, has turned it around over the past 2 weeks and looks like an above-average offensive again. But the defense has been so putrid to where I would not even try, because this team is soft. They have no pass rush. They don't tackle physically. We see it time after time after time. They're susceptible to the run. They're susceptible to mobile quarterbacks scrambling. They can't generate pressure. There is no hope for this team to win in the postseason, even if they miraculously made it. So why try to buy at the deadline, especially if some of these players that you would acquire are not guys that you would have for the future, and they are one-year players? Well, if you can't tell, I'm fired up, and you know the answer to this question for me. Let me know, is the Miami Dolphins season over? Type O for over. That's what I would be typing. Type A if you think it's alive. Well, maybe they go on a run. Who knows? I said I don't believe that, and here is the next 5 games for Miami. It starts week by week by week. This week they got the Los Angeles Rams on Monday Night Football. And I will say this, and I'm not going to get my hopes up, and if you were with our live show, you'll hear why I think this. If you beat the Rams on the road, you do have 2 games at home in back-to-back weeks that are very, very easy, which would then set you up potentially for 3 straight wins and get you to 5-6 on the year. But here's my thing. This game right here, I don't care what happens in these 3 games. This is the deciding factor for me. In Green Bay on Thanksgiving, Thursday Night Football. It's going to be cold. It's going to be frigid temperatures in Green Bay, a tough place to play at Lambeau with a physical football team. The only possible way I ever believe in this Miami Dolphins football team again this season is if they go win, 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 win. I don't care if they go 3-0 here and then lose here. If they do not win 4 straight games and get their record back to 6-6, I will not believe in this football team once again. You win all 4 of these games, and then you got New York at home in Week 14, well, then maybe we can have a discussion about this team actually going on a postseason run. But that's neither here nor there. We did promise that since there was a report and rumor out there that they might be calling to acquire players, what players could those be? These are the 4 candidates that I see the most likely that the Miami Dolphins could acquire be in the next 24 hours, let's say. Azeez Ojulari, the edge from New York, the edge from New Orleans, Chase Young, linebacker Devin Lloyd, former first-round pick from Jacksonville, and Sebastian Joseph Day, the defensive lineman from Tennessee. Why are these 4 players the players that I mentioned? And I'm not going to deep dive into them. Maybe I will do trade targets tomorrow morning before the deadline. But if the Dolphins are to acquire a player at the deadline, it better be in the front 7. It better be on the defensive line or in that linebacker room. Because outside of Jordan Brooks, your linebackers have been putrid. The defensive line can't generate any pressure and have been susceptible to the run at times this year. I'm fine with your corners. You can make an argument for safety in terms of getting a player because of how bad Poyer and Marcus May have been in terms of stopping the run as well as in coverage at times. But to me, it starts with the defensive line. Azeez Ojulari would be a fun player to add because he would be your best edge rusher from day one. And with him being a free agent, you'd get a head start on potentially keeping him around long term until Bradley Chubb returns. Chase Young, same thing. Sebastian Joseph Day would help shore up that interior defensive line next to Zach Sealer, which would allow you to push Calais Campbell to the exterior potentially. But here's my thing, guys. I don't think it's worth it in terms of acquiring a player for Miami. If you are going to give me an option in terms of sell, buy, or do absolutely nothing, I rank sell number 1, stand pat number 2, and buy dead last at number 3. I don't want to waste any draft capital. I don't care if it's a pick swap in 2026. It's not worth it right now. This team isn't going anywhere. Hold on to your draft capital or acquire draft capital because you need those picks more than you need players to help this team right now. That's going to do it for today's show. Appreciate everyone hanging out here. And if you are still watching, you obviously like what we're doing here. So make sure you hit that sub button. Make sure your notifications are turned on to all, not just personalized, so you get notified every time we drop a video, because when news happens, we will come at you with the video. So make sure you're subscribed.